There's some background noise here, ladies. Okay, I'm going to get started. It's 8:30. I wanted to just say how grateful I am that we have these lovely people on the line tonight. And my name is Laura Sciepko, and I hosted last week's call, and this is really part 2 of it. Just so you know a little bit about myself, in my current life, I worked for Johnson & Johnson for about 18 years. And I was in sales management, large account management, training and development, did a bunch of different things. And when I left J&J, I went to pursue one of my favorite things that I liked about being a manager and a coach and a trainer is to develop people and to really develop people to be all that they could be. And one particular thing that I really loved is helping people work with other people, building teams, working on teams, leading teams. And so now in my life, it's still a passion that I have. And so tonight I'm going to go over part 2 of what we talked about last week, and that is versatility. And versatility is so important for us in our lives because everybody thinks differently. And the more that we can be versatile, our business relationships, our personal relationships, our relationships with our spouses, our friends, our children, the people that we volunteer with, the people that we work with on a daily basis can be so much richer and rewarding if we just understand people a little bit better. So I'm going to share my screen now. Here we go. And please forgive me, my computer crashed. And so I am working off of a different computer, and these slides do not work the way that they worked on my old computer. So I just ask for forgiveness up front that I'm going to have to be rolling through this deck. It might look a little haphazard, but that's just kind of the nature of the beast when you have a computer issue. But so what we're going to do is we're going to do a review. Number 1, a high-level review of what we talked about last week, just to remind everyone where we came from. And then we're going to if anyone had the opportunity to do the homework and learn about your own style, we'll talk a little bit about styles, and then we'll talk about modifying our behaviors so we can help other styles feel comfortable. So again, the benefits of versatility is to increase our influence on and motivation of others, and to gain commitment of our ideas and improve collaboration. And overall, it's just to help increase our effectiveness. But it's really the fact is, how do we collapse the time? In a nutshell, how do we collapse the time to make someone comfortable with us quicker? Someone we don't know, someone in a new relationship. In addition to that, how do we now look at the people in our lives and understand them a little bit better so we can communicate a little bit better? So that's just kind of gives us the benefits of versatility. So, okay, so again, we're going to talk about identifying it, reflecting, and how do we modify our behavior. So if we identify what someone is and ourselves, what we are, and we reflect on that, then we can understand, okay, well, this is how I operate. This is how they operate. What do I need to do to kind of make this more productive? So let's go into, because I'm going to just whiz through. We talked about all this last week, but here's a key point I want to remind everyone is sometimes we can make judgments about people because we don't understand what they're thinking. And we look at the habits that they have. But everyone was created in their own unique way, and their unique way is perfect for them. And they might be different than you are. However, we just need to understand that those are just behaviors on the outside. And that's all. And we don't really know what's on the inside unless we, again, make people feel comfortable quicker, so then we can get to know them, and then we can understand the inside and what's going on inside, and then really bring those relationships to another level. But at the get-go, we have to look at behaviors, because the behaviors exhibit how people want to communicate. So here it is right here. So, you know, we all have ideas and thoughts and values and opinions, but when we meet someone, and sometimes when we know someone pretty well, we don't know what's going on inside, because we might not just be able to get close enough because we're not giving them what they need to feel comfortable to share more. Okay, so that's why with social styles we focus on the exterior of the people, on the exterior of people at the get-go, because that's where we can't, you know, we just know this is what they do, this is how they behave, how can I help them be more comfortable, and almost flex myself to not mirror their behavior, but flex myself to meet their needs and how to communicate and how they might want to respond to things. So now let's dig into this. We talked a little bit about the social styles last time, and I asked folks to send out a survey. I don't know if anyone did. If anyone did, you can unmute yourself. But the way that we do the social styles, that we have uploaded it on on our Facebook group page. We've uploaded that questionnaire, and there are so many questionnaires out there that we self-assess. But sometimes we really self-assess on what we think we're like. And the beauty of this social styles is that you have other people looking at your behaviors. You have them seeing you for what you are and assessing you. And so if you haven't done the assessment, please send that out to 6 people you know, have them fill it out, because then you will learn what social style you truly are. And I shared this on the last call, if you weren't there, is I have been assessed 3 times with this tool by different people. And I was in a different job, in a different position each time at my company. And every time I was assessed as the same social style. So while in different situations we might flex to be a different social style because we have to do that, because that might require it. However, we always have our behaviors that we are most comfortable exhibiting, because that's just how we're built. That's who we are. So let's talk a little bit about these different social styles. So as you can see, there's 2 lines there. You know, you have your vertical axis, and these are really your buckets. You have are people responsive? How are they responsive? So your responsiveness is really, how do you express your emotions? Are you really task focused in expressing yourself, or are you more people focused in expressing yourself? And then, you know, your assertiveness is how you want to influence. How do you influence? What is the way you influence? And that's, are you more of an ask-directed person, or are you more of a tell-directed person? And so when these 2 lines collide, it gives us our 4 different social styles, right? And they're all very, some of them share the same things. For example, the analytical, and the driver, you know, they are both very task-directed, and the amiable and the expressive are very people-directed. But let's talk a little bit about each one of those people. So if you look at the driver, that person is very task-oriented. They typically prefer like clear, defined goals. And they are determined risk takers. So they'll take risks, but they are determined that they're going to take that risk. And they efficiently use their time and their energy and all their other resources. They're just kind of like, let's just do it. Let's get it done. We know where we're going, so there's no time to discuss and mess around. This is where we need to go. And the expressive, they're more people-oriented. Again, they're people-directed, but they're also tell-directed. So they're more people-oriented. They're more comfortable actually when they're at the center of attention. And they're typically talkative people, somewhat emotional people, enthusiastic, and sometimes they can be dramatic as well. So that's the expressive. So those are the people that they don't really worry about the clock. They love brainstorming sessions. And so as long as we have all the people involved and everyone gives their input, we're going to get this done. And we're going to use a lot of creativity to do it, but we're going to get it done. So, and the amiable person, that person is very personable. They're very loyal. They're very patient, and they are extremely uncomfortable with risk. So that's the amiable person. And that's really the person that they want everyone to be included. Everyone needs to be included on the decision. Everybody needs to be comfortable with where we're going. And the analytical person, that person is serious. They mull tasks over. They can sometimes seem indecisive, but really it's just that they need all the data to be able to make that decision. They need all the information and they'll be able to make that decision. And once they make that decision, they'll stick with it. They're with you. They just take a little bit of time to get to the end because they would like to have all of the details. So that's kind of just gives us, again, a high level of those social styles. And if you think about it, you think about how they can kind of conflict. So we're all in different boxes, right? I am an expressive. I have been rated that every time. So I'm an expressive. So if I'm an expressive, I share with the driver, I share that direct assertiveness. So that's something that I share with them. So that's like the driver and I will jive sometimes, but I might want to brainstorm a little bit more and they just want to get to the point. So let's look at the analytical versus amiable. That's their shared dimension, right, is their assertiveness dimension. But their so they'll have a source of conflict, is that their priority. So the analytical wants facts and data. They're not going to really get to the point quickly. They want facts and data. And the amiable, they really want to have, people to be included. So that's kind of their differences, their sources of conflict. But their area of agreement is their pace. They're slow in decision-making. Analytical need the data. Amiable want everyone's agreement. So that's kind of where they agree, but then they also have those areas of conflict. So if I'm an amiable person, what I'll need to do, the analytical really doesn't want to hear about the feelings of everyone and everyone being included. They want to hear about the data. So I would need to make sure that I'm providing them more data versus feeling. Okay, because they're more tasked. As an amiable, they're a more people-directed person. Now, driver and expressive, I talked about that a little bit. Their pace is pretty much the same, but their priorities are a little bit different. The expressive, again, they still want people included on everything. They still want to have a lot of fun. The driver, so they're at a fast pace doing that. But the driver, oftentimes, they just want to get it done. They really don't, they're not really that concerned about, everybody being included in on the decision. So now let's look at the analytical versus the driver. Okay, so again, their shared dimension here is that they really, they're not really too concerned about the people, right? They're more concerned about the task. And then their pace, though, is very, very different. So an analytical can drive a driver crazy because the driver just wants to get it done. But the driver could drive the analytical crazy because they're not looking at the data enough. They're not looking at everything clearly enough from the analytical's view. And one thing I want everyone to remember is that every person, whatever social style you are, there's nothing wrong with any social style. It's just the way we view life out of our lens and the way that we exhibit it, in our behaviors. The driver still cares. The analytical still cares. The amiable still cares. The expressive still cares. We just show our caring differently. And we're all effective as well, and we get the job done. We just do it differently. And appreciating those differences is what the true key is, because then we can modify how we work, right? So let's look at the amiable versus expressive. Boy, they share people, they both want everyone to be involved. But the expressive, they're at a quick pace. They're moving, they're going here, there, and everywhere. The amiables, they're very slow. Everyone's going to be comfortable. So the area of conflict is just how quickly things are moving. Now this is where it gets a little interesting, is the analytical versus the expressive. They have no shared dimensions. So they have really, in the way that they express and try to influence, they have nothing in common. at all. So that's where the flexing really needs to happen. You look at it, analytical is task directed and they're ask directed. So they're going to ask more questions, they're going to want more data, and they're going to want to focus on the task. The expressive, they're just going to tell you this is how we think it should be done. Everybody's agreed upon this. Everybody's agreed. The people have agreed upon this. They want to get it done. They'll talk in generalizations, and that can drive an analytical crazy. And I will tell you from experience, I'm an expressive and my husband is an analytical. So I drive him absolutely crazy with how gray I am with things. And I'm very nonspecific sometimes. And he is always asking me questions. And if you can imagine an expressive who doesn't like to worry about details, that can drive me nuts. But we're both effective in what we do, and we have to make that work. And we now understand that. And so we work together as a married couple a lot better. Same thing with driver and amiable. No shared dimensions. The driver will think that the amiable sometimes is weak, to be honest. Weak in decision making, taking too long to do things, might think that they just don't have a backbone. Quite frankly, that sometimes happens. And the amiable, quite frankly, sometimes they think the driver's a little bit of a bully and they just want to get it done. So those dimensions are the ones that it's really, really critical when you look at flexing, how important it is to really understand where people are coming from out of the gates, out of the get-go. Okay, does that make sense? Does anyone have any questions so far? No questions? Okay. So there are also sub-quadrants where when you assess yourself, you can see if you're a little bit of a driving driver, an amiable driver. So we all do have a little bit of a backup. So you might say, if you're assessed, I'm not a complete expressive, but you probably have a little bit of piece that you exhibit to other people. So we usually have two dimensions. I was an expressive. That's where I was calculated as. Okay, so if we look at, and you want to look at one word for these people, your analytical is your technical specialist. They're going to want technical information. Your driver is your control specialist. They're going to want control. Your amiable is your support. They're always giving support. And the expressives are typically the social type people. They're a lot more social out there, always talking to people, usually want, again, everyone to be included. So let's go. Sorry about my slides here. So when we think about it, and we're looking at people's behaviors, again, assertiveness, we're looking at the pace, their voice, their body language, and responsiveness, their voice, their body language, and their focus. What are they focused on? So remember, the focus for an analytical is data. The focus for the driver is facts, but get it done now. The focus for the expressive is really focused in on creativity, getting it done. The focus for the amiable is everybody's being included. So really listening to those behaviors and how if they're talking quickly, if their voice is loud, if they make a lot of facial expressions, or if they don't, if they're a little bit flat, if they have a slow pace, and if they're quiet. So the last time we had a call, I showed some videos. So if you haven't watched those, I'd encourage you to go back and look at those videos, because when you see those videos, you will see exactly, you will know exactly which social styles everybody is based upon the discussion that we're having tonight. So, we reflect on that and you think about, okay, well, what do these people need? Once I identify the social style, what do they need? So let's just go back to the driver again. The driver, they really need someone to be assertive. They need someone to be affirmative, and they need someone to give kind of solutions. So you need to listen to what they have to say, but you also need to give solutions. So that's a big thing for the driver. It's not when you're going to go in there and question someone. It's, this is really these are the two options that would be best for this situation. These are the options. So that's really, and while they need to be in control, if they're seeking guidance, that's what you need to give them. If you're having a discussion with them and you're trying to influence them and you're an amiable, asking them a lot of questions and trying to make them feel comfortable will actually make them feel uncomfortable. So if you provide solutions and information and options, that will actually make the driver feel more comfortable. And as an amiable, that can pull you out of that comfort area doing that, but that's what the driver needs to feel comfortable with you. And the driver as well, what the driver would really need to do with the amiable is to reassure them and support them and make sure that they understand that, here are the decisions that we're making, or let's talk about these decisions. I think these options are great, and reassure them why they would be good decisions. So it's really the people focused as well. So that's, it's the amiable and driver, it's two distinctly different social styles, but they can work together very well. The analytical, keep to the facts, answer the questions, keep to the facts, keep to the data. That's really what they need, is data and facts, and they don't need to be pushed. They need to have everything they need to feel comfortable in making a decision. And then finally, the expressive is just ask them a lot of questions. They want to share. They have thoughts. They're brainstorming. So asking questions, engaging with them. And, sometimes I hate to say this when I'm an expressive myself, engaging with them, but also giving them recognition of, what they're doing or what their team's doing or whatever situation you're in. So it's really important to understand some of the things that you can do to, help them through the process. So again, I'm going to give you a couple words that will help you focus on that. Is with the driver is to really support their conclusions and their actions. With an expressive is to support their dreams and intuition. With an amiable, to support their relationships and their feelings. And with an analytical, to support their principles and their thinking. And again, my son is also an analytical, so this is kind of challenging for me as a mom. Now, and then for decisions, I'm going to go back to the decisions because I want to make sure everyone gets this, is decisions for drivers, options, probabilities. Analytical, testimonials and incentives. For the amiable, they need to be reassured. So they need guarantees and reassurance. And then for the analytical, they need evidence and service. Evidence and service. So I might have said it wrong. The expressive means testimonials and incentives. They need incentives. They need to be motivated. Let me tell you about this person, and they had that success, and this person did this, and this did well. So that works for them. Stories work for expressives, but for analyticals, they need evidence and they need service. And so if we're in one of these boxes, the things to think about is, we're kind of reflecting on what these people need. So what would they expect of us? What would I have to do to meet their needs? What do we share in common? So we talked about that a little bit. And what are the differences? So we talked about that as well. And if we think about those, that's going to increase our awareness of the different interpersonal expectations that others have for you. And so let me go down here. Sorry about that. So if you look at, we need to understand that they all have expectations and preferences for each style. And how do we identify those preferences so we can apply them to our job or in our life? And then find out how some people perceive our versatility with them. So I think it's so important that when we're reflecting that we all do that assessment as well. I think that's really important because it's going to help us look at our growth areas. And that's what I wanted to talk about next, is really your growth area. And I'm so visual that I think it's always so important to look at this. But if you're a driver, the key thing to focus in on is your listening skills. Am I listening enough to people, or am I focused on the prize? Am I just going for the prize? I don't want to hear about the details. I don't want to hear about that Susie Q is involved. I don't want to hear about another idea. I don't need to worry about any more data. I've already looked at it. It's good. You need to listen to people, right? And with the expressive, it's so important to check in with people. You could get lost in yourself as an expressive. I'd probably get lost in myself right now, right? But to really check in, make sure you're checking for details, make sure you're checking that people are comfortable, make sure that you're checking that the driver is good with the direction that you're going. The amiable, they really need to initiate. The amiable really needs to initiate more and not always have to worry about everybody feeling comfortable, because you might be working with people that don't need to feel comfortable. You might not, or I almost want to say included. I should say included. So some people, the expressive, yes, everybody wants to do that, but the analytical really doesn't care if everybody's included. They just want the data, and the driver just wants to get it done. And then the analytical needs to decide. So moving up that decision cycle when you're working with other social styles is really, really key. And so, I challenge you all to get that quiz done for yourself. And so you can see, or have 6 people do it, because you really want to get that assessment and really think about where you are and how you can flex your behaviors. And I will tell you that there's a very good strategy to enter into a conversation when you're having maybe a business meeting with someone, or you're having a meeting with a purpose, and it makes everybody feel comfortable. I'm going to go back to the slide because I'll probably be in the front. Okay. Let me find it. You can see you can see this. Is whenever you have a meeting with a purpose, is you outline it in the purpose, the process, and the payoff. You see that purpose, process, payoff. Because what this does is this will set up your conversation and make every single style comfortable. If you set up with a purpose and you say, this is what this is all about, so tonight our purpose was, we want to walk away understanding social styles better, right? So you have a purpose of the meeting. Our meeting today is to really discuss the value of raising funds for the school booster club. That could be your purpose. And then you go through the process. So your process, number one, it helps your analyticals and your drivers know where you're going. Your analyticals want to know exactly where you're going. Your drivers want to know where you're going. And your amiables want to know where you're going as well. But it also helps keep your amiables and your expressives on track, because you've already told them this is what we're going to cover. And so if you get off track, you can always come back to your process. And your payoff really helps that driver. This is what you're going to get out of today. So you do a purpose, a process, and a payoff in every meeting that you have intent. So the purpose is really, here's why we're here. The process is 2 or 3 steps. We're going to do the X, we're going to do Y, we're going to do Z during this discussion. And then when we all walk, and then at the end of this meeting, my hope is that we all feel very informed about the different social styles so we can apply those to the relationships in our lives. So that's just another little add-on tip for tonight, just as you look at just interacting with other people. So, I guess your 3 homework for you tonight is, number 1 is make sure that people fill out your surveys. You get 6 people to fill them out. Find out what your social style is. Share that social style with someone. Think about that. Second thing is try to execute some sort of modification of behavior over the next week with someone who you think, based upon observing their behaviors, is a different style than your own. Thirdly, try the strategy of the purpose, process, and payoff for some sort of business meeting, whether it's a business meeting, a meeting for volunteering, whatever it is, it's a meeting with a purpose. So practice the purpose, the process, and the payoff, because that will help you make people feel comfortable, because you're meeting everybody's certain needs. You're meeting all the styles needs, and that will in turn allow your meeting to get off to a better start, allow people to be more comfortable, and allow you to be more productive. And that is all I have tonight, except for the fact that I'm extremely grateful that everyone was here tonight with me. And if anyone has any questions or comments, let me know. If not, we'll just say bye-bye. Have a good night, everyone.